thought Jackie was pregnant just not too long ago, the first thing I said is, you're going to have to start eating meat again.
Yeah.
You know? It's possible, I know that, but doctors really frown on that. I mean, they all kind of, you know, they say you just can't.
There's a reason. There's a reason that the humans' brains evolved as big as they are, and that was because they had access to high, dense protein and meat. You know, that kid needs a whole lot of stuff. I'm sure there is a way to do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I kind of think it's a little selfish. You know,
right.
my wife, you know, she tried being vegetarian, and she was fainting. She was becoming anemic. You know, her biology does not support that. Same thing happened with me. My biology does not support a vegetarian lifestyle. I had a vegan dietitian who, you know, specialized in this, and he told me, like, you know what, some bodies, some systems, it just doesn't work. You know, maybe next time. You know.
Right.
And I kind of use it as a bit of a cop-out, but I love meat. My great-grandfather Carson, who I feel a deep affinity and connection to, was a butcher. You know, he set up the butcher stores in the Safeways in California back in the 1940s because back then, what this new thing called supermarkets, they didn't own their meat department. It was leased out to an outside company, and they provided the meats for the supermarkets. When World War II happened, my grandfather volunteered and was sent back because they needed qualified butchers for the war effort back home. And then when the war ended, he headed out to California, started all the Safeway butcher stores.
Safeway?
Yeah. Yeah, Safeway supermarkets. He had all the butcher shops in them when they're all over California.
You're heir to the Safeway meat fortune.
Yeah, there's not much of that. But yeah, that's what my grandpa Carson did. I also I grew up on a farm. I was in Future Farmers of America. You know, I've slaughtered animals. I used to go hunting, but I chose not to kill when I went.
The thing is, I mean, so what me and Jackie tried to do, we made an effort to only go with ethically, because it's on the ethical grounds, and really my objection is to factory farming.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I cannot stomach is those practices, you know. But ethically raised things, I mean, so we said it was all right. We'll only buy, you know, things that we know to be meats that we know to be humanely and ethically raised, and you know, and free of additives and free of things that we don't want to consume. So, but again, the problem with it's very difficult. It requires close relationship with food. It requires, you know, the shopping that to get yourself there. And what ended up happening is we're not holding up. You know, we weren't holding our end of the bargain.
It requires a lot of, you know, it requires a lot of time.
Yeah,
and also things spoil.
Money. I mean, exactly. I mean, so you know, and we just lead busy lives, and it just ends up. You know, I'm going, all right, now I'm eating the same, you know, meat that's at my work comes from, you know, a grocery. Comes from like a Costco or something, you know, and I'm like, I know that this is not this kind of meat that I want.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I get my hot dogs, I get kosher Hebrew nationals because plus I can get it at Costco. I mean, and I can get like a metric ton of them. But when it comes to like my daughter, I offer her meat, but if she refuses it, because she refuses most foods. She rejects a lot of foods, but she tends to reject meat except for bacon. let's make
figure.
it. Yeah. That I completely understand. Use a Richards.
Well, now that it's really kind of getting stride and really making some good stuff. I mean, when I first tried that kind of stuff like 10 years ago, God, it was awful.
Yeah, no, it's really improved. The what is it? The
Herbivorous Butcher.
Yeah.
They've got some really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all wheat gluten, which, there's another thing. If you want to, I personally am not. I'm not one of these gluten. I don't think gluten's the big poison unless you have some level of body allergy to it.
Exactly.
I don't think there's anything, but I do know that that a lot of gluten is not particularly good for your system. And it's vital wheat gluten, which I don't know the exact difference, but I believe that there is one, and that according to them, that's the good part of the gluten. But it's not, they have stuff like porterhouse, and you get these giant pieces of steak, and the texture, it's sort of like a good steak, but it's not quite right. So I mean, the thing is, for me, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna eat a fake steak.
Yeah.
If I want to eat a steak, that's what I'm gonna eat, is a steak.
Yeah.
But I do like, they have like chorizo logs. They have like these logs of chorizo, so they, you crumble that, you fry it with your bacon and cheese and veggies and breakfast burritos. That's applications.
Well, the nice
like
thing about something that's flavorful as a chorizo, you can just add the spices, and it's the spices that goes into the flavor.
Exactly.
The big thing about the meat is it's all about the art of the texture.
Right.
And people have figured out different variances. And, like I love tofu. I can just eat tofu. I love mushrooms. But my wife can't stand them because can't stand tofu and it's a texture thing. And for her, I easily get over texture issues, but I have issues with bitterness. For me, bitter tastes like poison. So this race to create the most hop-filled IPA poison bomb is just something that I reject. I don't drink much anymore, but I drink Northeast. It's a fresh, local, good, smooth, crisp, quaffing beer that doesn't get you too stupid. I don't want to. It's been a while since I've been drunk.
Yeah, that's the one major thing in the last 5 years. That I've given up all mind-altering and mood-altering substances, and that's been monumental. In that I never thought I could do it personally. That something. It's like being in recovery was that was obviously life-altering, but I was also the constitution where I could not. I was going to keep doing what I was doing, and not ever in a lesser quantity, but always in greater quantity.
You knew yourself.
I discovered that I tried every other way. That I'll just do marijuana, I'll just drink and smoke pot. I tried every combination of things that were supposed to be less harmful, and the result ended up. I always went back to doing harder things, and I always, or drank to excess, like constantly. So it's like, okay, you're not doing hard drugs, but now you're drinking to excess. Like really excessively. I mean, DWI. This stuff, consequences, but I'm a firm believer though that it's, that we are talking about individual constitutions, genetic dispositions, allergies of the body that that end up in addiction, and so there's all types, there's all shapes. I mean, I'm not a crusader for the cause, because I think I'm actually jealous of people who can, CanCan is one of those places where I see a lot of this. I see a lot of people that are the moderates that are really capable of having one of those crazy cocktails and going home. You know what I'm like?
Yeah.
For me, that's not possible. I don't. You know, what is the point of one?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what I can drink at CanCan Wonderland, and being a type 1 diabetic, there's not even a diet soda in the entire freaking building. So I've been just drinking a lot of water, which is a good thing. You know.
Yeah.
I do allow myself I've allowed myself an indulgence this month, and that's I bought a big old thing of Fiji water because I want water for me and for my daughter that doesn't have pharmaceuticals in it.
Right.
So I have water shit from an island halfway around the world.
Right. I was just gonna say, what's the carbon footprint?
Exactly. Well, and you know, and I'm aware of this, but I am allowing myself this because it's kind of the purity of essence. You know what?
And I'm not gonna lie, Fiji is delicious.
It tastes so good.
It's amazing.
Do you know who turned me on to Fiji? Whoopi Goldberg.
Really?
We were going to show with her. She was doing one show before she took a show to Broadway at the Guthrie Theater. This was the old Guthrie when it was next to the Walker Arts Center. And there was a sound guy for it. And she showed up a few hours ahead of time. She and I started chatting. We ended up just kind of shooting the shit for like 3 hours before the show. Just really hit it off really well. And we went back to her dressing room to put the microphones on her, and on her rider, the only thing that was on her rider was Fiji water. And I asked her, so I noticed you only had one thing on your dressing room rider, and that was Fiji water. He's like, what's the deal? And she's like, oh, have you not had it? He was like, no. She's like, have some. And then I had some, and I'm like, oh, that's good. It's like extra wet.
Right.
You know,
like...
the electrolyte, you know, impurities in it hit the tongue just right. You know.
Right.
Yeah. I remember I was warned that she's not allowed near technology. Whoopi Goldberg's not allowed near technology. She has what me and my friends refer to as a glitch field, which causes devices to just malfunction around certain people.
Really?
Yeah, I've developed a glitch field. There's a reason that I work with 2 cameras. Is because one will just stop working.
Really?
Yeah. And when I play pinball, and again, it may be completely psychosomatic just because I'm programmed to watch out for it. But I keep on hearing phrases like, never seen that before, and whoa, that really shouldn't happen. And it tends to happen with devices around me, or, you know, again, it may be completely psychosomatic, but I am hyper aware of it.
Right.
So, yeah, glitch field. So I had 2 wireless microphones for her. So I put one on one side and one on the other side of her. She had this Rugrats bowling shirt on, and kind of flared out at the bottom, so I could easily hide the packs weren't visible. So I put them on opposite sides of her, and she's like, I kind of feel like I got saddlebags. Can we move them a little bit further back? So I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I move them a little bit closer on the small of her back. And then she goes, how's my ass? And then I did a quick kind of mental calculation considering women's rights, the Guthrie's sexual harassment policy, but also the last two and a half hours of interaction with a fellow comedian. And I reached down and I just grabbed Whoopi Goldberg's ass and went, Wah! Seems pretty good to me. And this Oscar-winning actress slowly looked over her shoulder and said, I like you.
Wow, that's not where I thought that story was going.
Yeah. I took a calculated risk and trusted my instincts on that one. And then we made sweet, sweet love. And then she did a really kick-ass show, and I helped keep the throngs off of her as she got to her tour bus. That's my Whoopi Goldberg story.
And you were like, remember that time you were in the color purple? Like that was cool, huh?
That movie is cool. I've been meaning to rewatch it. That's a harsh tale.
Yeah, I need to watch that again. It's only been decades, you know.
Yeah. And there's also I've been meaning to watch the new Roots.
There's a new Roots.
Yeah, I think A&E is distributing it. And my daughter and I have been watching Reading Rainbow. LeVar Burton, which is coming back due to a Kickstarter that was started up. That was handled by a friend of mine, Ivan Asquith, who did the Veronica Mars and Mystery Science Theater 3000 Kickstarters.
Okay.
And how I met him was, me and my friends were early adopters of Twitter. We used it to figure out which bar we're going to drink at back in our phone days.
Okay.
And my friend Chet Valentine on Twitter said, "Hey, let's meet at the CC Club. I could really use a drink. I'm convinced that all my coworkers are cyborgs." So I was at my computer when I got the message. My phone went off, but I was at my computer. So I made another Twitter account called Terminator and just had it follow him as a joke. Him and a woman on Twitter named Sarah Connor. Fast forward a couple years ago, 3 years ago, they're doing a new Terminator movie. I got Terminator on Twitter. And I'm always being hit up. People are trying to get the account for me. Usually it's kind of skeezy people who want to get an in with Arnold.
Okay.
But a guy contacts me, Skyfire Studios, whoever did the new Terminator Skydance. They also did the Star Trek films. They're doing the new Terminator films. They want the Twitter account. But the guy approached me as Ivan was tasked with getting the account. He approached me as a human. He asked me what I'd be interested in, you know, for the Terminator account. You know, do I want to visit the set? You know, do I want to, you know, and being an industry professional, you know, while it does interest me, I didn't really have time for it, for that kind of thing. So what we did was we came up with a nice little bit of cash, a good hotel room close to the venue at San Diego Comic-Con for me and my, at the time, very pregnant wife, and a favor to be asked later. But what I originally asked for was a Terminator 2 pinball machine.
And they were like, "We can't do that."
He's like, "Yeah, I don't have that." So
wait, so they wanted the handle?
Yeah.
They wanted the handle
at Terminator.
Yeah.
Which for legal purposes, I typically changed into the anthropomorphic personification of the line of light and darkness on the moon.
Nice. So because you asked for something somewhat reasonable and not like $50,000, then they did it.
Well, and it wasn't quite. It was like a tenth of that. It was what we settled on, and what it was Ivan himself out of his cash. I'm sure he got paid back by the studios, and he probably got paid more for it. But transferred the cash, set up the hotel room, and started a positive interactive relationship. Because he's like, "Well, what do you want?" I go, "A job." And he's like, "That's not right now within my power." But the nice thing is, I've never really am in want of a job. You know, being a union stagehand who's qualified in sound means I have to turn down, 15 job offers a day. But I'm trying to do a career pivot that involves a lot more pinball.
Well, now is the time. Appears to be growing and flourishing.
I am actively trying to bring about a new pinball renaissance. I'm also interested in working in VR pinball, because the idea of a set of goggles and a pedestal that's like the last 6 inches of a machine, and being able to have every machine in the world in your
have you messed around with those?
A little bit. I haven't had a chance to play with a real pedestal one. I've played with controller ones.
Right, controller one. Yeah, that's what I messed with. But what's right now it's just such an infancy that it's like the one I did. So you're like in a room, and you can look around and the machine's there, but it's not developed. I mean, you're in a really plain room.
Yeah.
And
well,
you can look around and there's other machines. You can walk over, but it's really. I mean, it's somewhat pointless, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like, why do I need these goggles on? I mean, it's not like if you had a VR arcade experience where you're actually, the surroundings look like an arcade. I mean, what I was standing in was just like a really plain room, white walls or like whatever.
It didn't have the nuance. Well, that's one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to this pinball top 10 pinball room at Wonderland. And here's my thoughts on it. Have it be a place where you can rent time for the room or for a particular machine, and then you can also have that machine set to how you want it to do. So let's say you want to play like a 7-ball version of Twilight Zone, so that way you can finally get into the zone. Have it if that's something that's evaded you, for example, or conquer the universe on an attack from Mars by increasing the ball count and decreasing the what you need to get free balls. Instead of having matches be for extra credits, have matches be or have specials be for extra balls. That way you can play that particular game more and have kind of a specialized experience. And you're being charged for the time on the game. You're renting time for the game, not paying for credits. Changing it from the 3-ball mentality of a bar.
Right.
Because I think there is definitely going to be an audience for that once people know that that's something that can be done.
I have frosted glass also.
Yeah.
Custom MF Dune mask, frosted glass that Jackie made me. So the Papa at Papa headquarters, they'll do the. They have Papa logo frosted glass, but you can't see the flippers. It's like Tommy. It's like pink Tommy blinders.
Yeah.
Or
Oh, and I love the idea of modifying machines. Because there are so many of them, but everyone is unique, and if you can make it even more unique, all the better. And I understand the purity of historical preservation, but I also like the mashup quality and being able to customize something and just trick something out. It's a further expression of love, especially if it adds something to the pinball experience.
Right.
That's why I think we should get a 3D printer. Just make extra playfield toys and.
Right. 100%. John Graff is the EM guy. I mean, what he does with those toppers. That's that extra mile.
Yeah,
it really makes
it adds to the experience.
Right.
It shows them as the works of art that they are, and the display. It's one of the reasons the 1962 World Series baseball game is so much more interesting than a lot of the other ones. Is that it has that little diorama background area that just adds so much.
Right, the animated back box. It's like you look at what the way in the time period with the technology that was available, the way how incredibly creative these designers were to come up with the most they could do with what they had, which is electromechanicals. I mean, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I've got a deal worked out with Trent Augustine